Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. There'll be some sad funeral plans while Kyle Abbott lands in a tight spot with Claire Newman. Victoria Newman and Adam Newman will also make a pact. Carter will go off the rails when he takes Lily Winters hostage before shooting Chance Chancellor dead in a fight over the gun. After Carter shoots himself next, Kane Ashby will be left to deal with the bloody aftermath. Despite all the outrage Kane's going to face over the chaos, he'll be determined to move back to Genoa City and pull off all his plans there. That includes the plan to reunite with Lily Winters, who'll soften a bit toward Kane when she apologizes for insisting he was the killer. As for Nick Newman, he'll get the medical help he needs once a helicopter shows up. However, Nick will kiss Sharon while he's waiting, and that'll set the stage for some messiness later. Will Nick eventually regret that lip lock and tell Sharon they shouldn't go down that romantic road again? After cell service returns, Lily will reach out to Nate Hastings and let him know about Damian Kane's murder. That'll leave Nate with the terrible task of telling Amy Lewis that Damian's gone forever. As for Victor Newman, he'll have vengeance on his mind as he plots against Kane following all the nice drama. Adam Newman and Victoria Newman also have a pact coming up, so they'll continue getting along and please Victor in the process. Considering the awful loss Victoria has faced, family unity will be more important than ever. Next, Daniel Romalotti Jr. will voice concerns about Phyllis Summers' next scheme involving Kane and Billy Abbott. Daniel will also serve as Tessa Porter's confidant again, so they'll bond after hanging out with Aria Porter Copeland in the park. After Kyle and Audra Charles find another way to play with fire, Kyle will get updates on Cole Howard's grim fate. That'll leave Kyle in a tight spot with Claire since he'll want to comfort her and avoid making things worse. The week of August 4th to 8th could bring Kyle's secret if he decides not to tell Claire about the trap he sprang. Kyle might hold off on revealing that Victor hired Audra to seduce him and that he ultimately played Audra. Claire will remain stuck in grief for a while, but Kyle will do his best to support her. Victoria and Claire opted to wait until the Newman family came back for Cole's memorial service, so we'll see if that moves forward. Of course, there'll be some funeral plans for Chance and Damian as well, though they may ultimately happen off-screen since there are so many tragedies that have piled up. As for Claire's newfound bond with Holden Novak, Kyle may catch a glimpse of it and grow unsettled over their connection. Once Kane lands back in GC, the next phase of his mission can begin. Kane will face tons of challenges, but he'll hope to prove himself and convince Lily to take a chance on their reunion. The air at Newman Enterprises was colder than usual and eerie stillness hung in the lobby, like the calm before a storm. Victor Newman stood in his private office, brooding over the betrayal he never saw coming. Kane Ashby had crossed a line and for Victor, that meant war. The titan of industry, known for his ruthless strategies and iron-fisted retribution, had kept a tight leash on his enemies for decades, but Kane's recent maneuver had blindsided him. Victor's investigation revealed the chilling truth. Kane had aligned with outside investors and quietly siphoned funds through a shell company in Singapore. But this wasn't just corporate sabotage, it was personal. Victor had once trusted Kane, even vouched for him to sit at the Newman roundtable. That trust was now ashes. As Victor leaned over the desk, eyes narrowed, he picked up his phone and made a single call, to Amy Westbrook. Smart, calculating, and dangerously loyal to Victor, Amy was not just his fixer, she was his secret weapon. And her history with Kane made her the perfect instrument of revenge. Years ago, Kane and Amy had a short-lived romance that ended in betrayal. Kane had used her as a pawn in a business ploy, only to disappear when the dust settled. Amy never forgot. And now, Victor dangled the opportunity for her revenge on a silver platter. "Are you ready to destroy him?" Victor asked. Her lips curled into a cold smile. "I've been waiting for this moment." Meanwhile, Kane was completely unaware of the noose tightening around his neck. He had just finalized a deal in Dubai, thinking he'd outrun Victor's radar. But back in Genoa City, Amy was planting the seeds of his downfall. First came the leaked documents, anonymous files pointing toward Kane's offshore accounts. Then came whispers in the media, suggesting Kane had defrauded the Newman Trust. But the true masterstroke came when Amy met with Lily, Kane's ex-wife, under the guise of reconciliation. She handed Lily undeniable proof of Kane's financial manipulation statements, transfers, emails, and a haunting message. You were never the only one he lied to. Lily, stunned, felt her world shatter again. She had only just begun to trust Kane again for the sake of their children. Now, she was staring at evidence that proved Kane had manipulated not only her but the very company that had given him a second chance. Amy's blow wasn't just professional, it was psychological. She had broken Kane's reputation, his family ties, and most importantly, his confidence. The final nail came at a Newman board meeting, where Victor, flanked by his children and legal team, announced Kane's expulsion and criminal investigation. But what no one knew was that Amy had been recording Kane in their latest secret meeting where he confessed to bending a few rules. That recording, now in Victor's possession, would be the death sentence to Kane's career and credibility. Cornered, Kane tried to fight back. He stormed into Victor's office, furious, demanding to know why the man who once trusted him had turned against him so viciously. Victor simply stared. You brought this on yourself. I taught you loyalty. You chose betrayal. Kane turned to Amy, realizing in that moment who had delivered the final dagger. You played me, he gasped. Amy didn't flinch. I gave you a taste of your own poison. Her eyes burned with long-buried fury. You never saw me as your equal. You should have. Kane's world crumbled in real time, his deals frozen, allies vanishing, and legal notices mounting. But Amy wasn't done. She went on live television during an emergency press conference, revealing her role in uncovering Kane's fraud. Her calm, poised demeanor shattered the public's sympathy for Kane. Reporters rallied behind her bravery, painting her as the insider whistleblower who saved Newman Enterprises from collapse. Her narrative gripped the media and destroyed Kane's last defense. Victor, from his tower office, watched the broadcast with stoic satisfaction. Revenge wasn't just about winning, it was about teaching lessons. And Kane had finally learned that crossing Victor Newman came with a price. Amy had delivered that price with precision and cruelty, and Victor couldn't have been prouder. As for Kane, he was left with ruins, no allies, no reputation, and worst of all, no one to believe in his innocence. Because Amy had made sure everyone saw him not just as a traitor, but as a liar, a thief, and a man who underestimated the wrong woman. Sad funeral plans, Kyle's closet, and Victoria and Adam's agreement. There'll be some sad funeral plans while Kyle Abbott lands in a tight spot with Claire Newman. Fans of Y&R can anticipate the following: Victoria Newman, played by Amelia Heinle, and Adam Newman, played by Mark Grossman, will also sign a contract. Carter will go off the rails during the taking Lily Winters hostage and then shooting Chance Chancellor in a gunfight. Kane Ashby, played by Billy Flynn, will be left to deal with the bloody aftermath after Carter kills himself. Despite all the outrage Kane's going to face over the chaos, he'll be determined to move back to Genoa City and pull off all his plans there. This includes the plan to get back together with Lily Winters, who will start to like Kane more after she says sorry for saying he was the one who killed her. When a helicopter arrives, Nick Newman will receive the necessary medical care. Nick, on the other hand, will kiss Sharon while he waits, which will set the stage for some mischief later. Will Nick in the end come to regret that lip lock and tell Sharon that they shouldn't continue their romance in that manner? After cell service returns, Lily will reach out to Nate Hastings and let him know about Damian Kane's murder. Nate will then have to dreadfully inform Amy Lewis that Damian is no more. As for Victor Newman, he'll have vengeance on his mind as he plots against Kane following all the nice drama. Adam Newman and Victoria Newman also have a pact coming up, so they'll continue getting along and please Victor in the process. Family unity will be more important than ever in light of Victoria's devastating loss. Daniel Romalotti Jr. comes next. Concerns will be expressed by regarding the subsequent scheme that involves Kane and Billy Abbott by Phyllis Summers. Daniel will also serve as Tessa Porter's confidant again, so they'll bond after hanging out with Aria Porter Copeland in the park. After Kyle and Audra Charles find another way to play with fire, Kyle will get updates on Cole Howard's bleak end. That will put Kyle in a difficult position with Claire because he will want to reassure her and prevent things from getting any worse. If Kyle decides not to tell Claire about the trap he set, the secret could be revealed during the week of August 4th to 8th. It's possible that Kyle will delay revealing that Victor hired Audra to seduce him and that he played Audra in the end. Kyle will support Claire as best he can, even though Claire will be stuck in her grief for some time. Victoria and Claire opted to wait until the Newman family came back for Cole's memorial service, So we'll see if that moves forward. Naturally, plans for Chance and Damien's funerals will also be made, though due to the mounting number of tragedies, they may ultimately take place off-screen. Concerning Claire's new relationship with Holden Novak, Kyle might see a glimpse of it and become uneasy about their connection. The next phase of Kane's mission will be able to begin once he lands back in GC. Kane will face tons of challenges, but he'll hope to prove himself and convince Lily to take a chance on their reunion. The news spread through Genoa City like wildfire. There would be a funeral, and not just any funeral, but one that would stir every hidden emotion, fracture old alliances, and spark unlikely pacts. As the plans for the Samba service were laid out, Kyle Abbott found himself in a vice of personal grief and family turmoil. The loss that brought the city to a halt wasn't just personal, it was public, scandalous, and steeped in shadows no one dared name aloud. Yet the town whispered, as it always did. The chapel had barely been booked before speculation erupted. Was it Carter's death that they were mourning? Or someone more deeply entrenched in the Newmans and Abbotts' messy legacy? Kyle stood at the edge of the grave site, surveying the location selected by his grandfather, Jack. It was quiet, too quiet for the weight it carried. Summer had taken Harrison to stay with Phyllis temporarily away from the suffocating drama that was swallowing Kyle whole. He was grateful for that. Harrison had already asked too many questions about the sudden hush in the house, about the muffled cries behind closed doors, and why Uncle Nick wasn't coming over anymore. But Kyle couldn't focus on fatherhood now. The walls were closing in. He had secrets, not all of them his own, and his hands were metaphorically and maybe literally dirty. Kyle's tight spot wasn't just grief. It was entrapment. Tessa had mentioned something vague to Mariah about Kyle being seen at the estate the night before everything went sideways. No names had been officially released to the press, but Kyle knew what the whispers meant. Someone was watching him. Someone was circling. And worst of all, he didn't know if it was Audra, Adam, or both. Or Victoria. That brought him to the next twist, Victoria and Adam's new and silent alliance. For all their historic animosity, it was the crisis around the funeral, around the person they'd lost, that forced them into each other's corners. Adam, ever the outsider with a heart no one could read, had arrived at Newman Tower days earlier, demanding answers. Victoria, always calculating but now emotionally spent from weeks of chaotic cover-ups and corporate battles, had surprised him with honesty. "If we're going to survive this, Adam," she'd said through gritted teeth, "we need to stop pretending we're enemies. At least for now." The pact wasn't signed with blood, but it might as well have been. Together, they agreed to clean up the mess before Victor returned from his secretive trip abroad, another layer to the mystery that surrounded this death. Victoria feared her father would return with vengeance in mind, and if that happened, it would not be Kyle, or Kane, or even Audra who paid first, it would be them. Because the truth was, Victoria knew more about the death than she let on. And Adam suspected it. But he also knew that being in the loop meant staying alive. Together, they handled the funeral arrangements. On the surface, it seemed respectful, even gracious. But beneath the casket and the velvet drapes of sorrow, were bribes, NDAs, and hidden agendas. Nikki, strangely absent from the planning, had taken to her room and hadn't spoken to anyone except Nick and Sharon. Her grief was so tightly knotted with fear that she couldn't bear to look Kyle in the eyes. She knew something. Something that, if said aloud, would destroy him. At the Newman Ranch, Victoria and Adam gathered with Nate and a reluctant Nick, who had only recently reappeared after his near-death escape. The four shared coffee and cold truths. "You think the funeral will put it all to rest?" Nick asked bitterly. "This is just the beginning." Adam nodded, uncharacteristically quiet. "Let them grieve. While they are distracted, we move." Victoria glared. "Not now. Not until after the service." Nick scoffed. "You're playing caretaker now, Vic." "I'm protecting the family," she snapped. "Unlike you, who ran when Sharon needed you most." That jab stung, but Nick took it. He knew she was only lashing out because she was scared. Deep down, she didn't want to admit that aligning with Adam might be the most dangerous thing she'd ever done. Back at the Abbott mansion, Kyle was unraveling. He hadn't eaten in over a day, and his hand trembled as he poured a drink from the decanter Jack had left untouched since Dina's passing. He could still hear her voice, warm and wise, warning him about the price of silence. The knock on the door startled him. It was Audra, looking effortlessly polished but vibrating with intensity. "You look like hell," she said, stepping inside without being asked. "What do you want?" Kyle muttered, sipping his drink. "I want the truth. Before the funeral. Because I won't be crying crocodile tears over a situation you helped engineer." Kyle's jaw tightened. "You think I killed him?" Audra smirked. "Let's not use the word killed just yet." "Then what do you want from me?" "Clarity," she whispered, walking toward him. "And protection. If I go down, you go down. And I'm not ready for either." Kyle swallowed the lump in his throat. He wasn't either. Meanwhile, Victoria and Adam met with the funeral director privately. The official guest list was a mess. Too many people wanted to attend. Too many more had to be excluded. The list included Kane, who had disappeared since the last altercation with Carter. Some feared he was dead too. Others whispered he had blood on his hands. Sally Spectra had appeared the night before at Crimson Lights, quietly asking about the service. No one knew if she wanted to attend to grieve, or to confront the very people who turned her world upside down. Sharon, always the quiet observer, noted how tightly Sally clutched her coffee cup. There was rage beneath her grief. And it wasn't just about who had died, it was about what had been stolen. "You're going, aren't you?" she asked Sally. "Of course," Sally replied, her voice low. "I need to see how far this rabbit hole goes." The day of the funeral arrived. Genoa City froze. Everyone wore black. There were no smiles, no friendly hugs, only stilted glances, uncertain eyes, and cameras hidden in trees by tabloid reporters desperate to capture the collapse of an empire. As the service began, Victoria and Adam stood side by side, a silent wall of power. Nick sat behind them with Sharon and Faith, his hand never leaving Sharon's. Kyle arrived late. Alone. He sat near the back, head bowed, sunglasses on even indoors. Every eye followed him. The eulogy was given by the family pastor. But no one listened. They were watching each other. Waiting for a collapse. Waiting for the truth. And then, mid-service, a gasp. A late arrival. It was Kane. Pale, wounded-looking, and furious. He walked straight down the aisle and stood beside the casket. "This person," he said, loud enough to stop the preacher, "was no angel. And this funeral isn't closure. It's the beginning of reckoning." Jack tried to stop him. Kyle rose to follow. Adam and Victoria exchanged a knowing glance. And somewhere outside, a man with a camera captured it all. The service ended in chaos. And Genoa City braced itself for what would come next. A shattered alliance, a deadly secret, and a pact that could either save or ruin the Newman legacy. Because when the tears dried and the earth was shoveled over the casket, there was still a body missing. And Carter's name wasn't on the gravestone. Victor's power moves. The Young and the Restless is serving up some juicy moments next week, and it's not just the usual drama. As Victor and Nikki make bold moves to protect their family and Nick and Sharon begin to repeat their own mistakes, the spoilers for the episode airing on July 28 through August 1 hint at significant decisions and tension. Next week, you should watch these hottest moments from Soap Hub. Victor and Nikki make unexpected choices. Victor and Nikki have always prioritized family when it comes to the Newmans. However, as they collaborate to protect their loved ones from the future, their decisions next week will be especially shocking. The stakes are high, and the choices they make could cause unexpected changes. Are they making the right choices for the family, or could their actions have unintended consequences? Find out what else happens next week on Y&R. Kane receives a severe lesson from Victor. Victor never hesitates to instruct, particularly when it comes to Kane. Kane will be shown how much is at stake in business when Victor tells him some hard truths. Kane may have believed he was in charge in France, but Victor's handling of him is certain to shake Kane to the core. Can Kane recover? Or will Victor's maneuver trap him? Victor unites his family. Next week, we will witness Victor unify the family in a way that only he can. Despite the fact that his methods frequently exhibit brutality, whether it's by force, persuasion, or sheer will, Victor is determined to bring his loved ones together, no matter what it takes.